friends from the C4 Network, and we are happy to bring you Livestream number 3 tonight, animated graphic novel. We are going to sing 4 pieces tonight with a Q&A after, so feel free to put your questions in the chat, and we will definitely get to them. We are giving 50% of tonight's tips to BYP 100, a community-based organization that is centered on ending systems of anti-Blackness and protecting people living on the margins, including women, girls, femmes, and LGBTQ people. So you can see the description in the chat for the Venmo, PayPal, and credit card info if you feel like giving a tip to us and to BYP 100 tonight. And all yours, Melissa.
All right, good evening, everyone. My name is Melissa Wozniak, and I'm going to be conducting the first piece on the program tonight. It's called Neighbors at 7 by our very own Jamie Klenetsky Fay. And she had the following to say about the piece. In April, WNYC, New York's public radio station, collected poems written by listeners under the hashtag Pause Poetry. These poems reflect how people were coping with the COVID-19 pandemic in New York City. As the pandemic wore on, safe in her New Jersey home, she felt a severe disconnect from New York, her friends, her choir, and the city itself, which was in a state unlike any she'd ever seen. Pause Poetry helped her find that connection. And as we all know, in New York City at 7 p.m., everyone would go out their windows, on their balconies, and start cheering for the first responders. So wave at your neighbor at 7. Enjoy. Thank you so much. I hear your applause. Amazing.
Great. I'd like to take the opportunity to try and introduce everybody. Let's see if I can do that. So, so you can all raise your hand when I call out your name.
What happens next?
We have primarily people from C4 here in New York and the Inversion Ensemble in Texas, but also people from C3LA in LA. And am I forgetting anyone? Anyway, so Joy Tamayo, Alissa Floyd, Karen Siegel, Jamie Klenetsky Fay, Daniel Andor-Ardó, David C., Perry Townsend, Emily Drossell, Timothy Brown, Mario Gullo,
Yo.
Ed Ciadoc, Colin Britt, Adrienne Inglis, Sam Wise, Melissa Wozniak, and then over here we have, let's see if I can get this right, Joshua Chai, me, Brian Mountford, Angela Irving, Karen Siegel. Wait, we already have. Did I get everybody? Or there's multiple pages here, so I'm all confused. But hopefully I got everybody. Great. And to cover for that, let's move on to the next piece.
Hi, I'm Adrienne Inglis with Inversion Ensemble. Last year, Inversion Ensemble selected Christopher Fludd as the winner of its Emerging Composer Contest. In Austin, Texas, we premiered his compositions Dawn and Sunset from Watercolors that features text by Jade Tiara Blocker. We're thrilled to perform Dawn for you now and eager to have Chris join us for the conversation after the concert. Stay afterwards to meet this talented young man, a recent Westminster Choir College graduate who majored in music education and theory composition.
And I'm Perry Townsend. I'll be the semi-conductor of this piece. Are we all ready?
Wait, hold on a minute.
Okay.
Sorry. I am.
Okay, we're all ready now, I believe. Is that a yes? Okay.
Okay, so apparently they could hear the click for part of that.
Oh. Should we do it again?
If they yeah, we could do it again, but I think maybe I managed to turn it off. Let's
Okay.
see. Let me check.
The delay in the chat is up. We don't know. There's a delay in the chat, so we don't know if they did in fact hear the fast click after you press it.
Wow.
But you know, we can address this in the Q&A afterwards, and if there's a request for a new performance during the Q&A, we can oblige.
That's true.
Fair enough.
Why don't we move on?
How the sausage gets made.
Exactly.
Live music, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, okay. Apparently they only heard it for like a third of the piece. So there's your behind the scenes peek at how we do what we do.
Was it the first third or?
It was the first third. So then
Okay.
after that they could get tranquil. Sorry about that.
Such a lovely click, too.
Okay.
I mean,
so
it has to be loud so we can hear it
Oh,
above
yes,
all of
yes.
us.
Exactly.
all right. Let's move on to David's piece.
Okay. So the title of this is Hey, Keep in Touch, and I see it as kind of a little research and development project on my part. Choral music always has a conductor, but in the live streams that we've been doing since April, we've been looking at the music on the screen, our computer screens anyway, so I thought, was there a way to cut up, excuse me? Okay. Is there a way to cut out the middleman and just have animated arrows show us where the beat is and dance along to it? So I decided to see how hard that would be using the software that was available, and it turns out that Final Cut, which I had, you can do that with. You could take a picture of a score and you could superimpose animated arrows on it. So with that, I quickly wrote up a lyric, which is one end of an imagined phone conversation in which a rather unhappy person that is speaking a litany of the things she misses under quarantine. And the intention of the music is to make, just to illustrate the text, sort of musical text painting, and crack a few jokes along the way. That is what the final result is. All 4.5 minutes of it. So, is everybody ready? I hear some rustling. Okay. All right, so I will bring it up. This may take a second.
So this is cool because the audience will get to see the score also.
That's right.
And
Feel
follow
free to
along.
sing along at home.
I
with
mean,
the exact
yeah.
score. Absolutely. Good luck.
Yeah. It's a sight reading test.
Share the screen. Share the right screen. Occasionally I've shared the wrong screen, but this should be right. All right.
Here we go.
Just total blackness.
Total blackness.
There's,
So we are ready to go?
We are ready.
Okay, here goes.
I don't see the score.
We're not
It-
ready.
He hasn't pressed play.
Yeah, I haven't pressed play.
So sorry.
My God, there was applause.
All right.
They liked it. They really liked it.
At least we think that.
All right, great. Let's move on to our final piece of the evening, and then hopefully you'll all stay for the talk-back Q&A with the composers afterwards. Josh, take it away.
Absolutely. So my name is Joshua Chai. I'm from Inversion Ensemble in Austin, Texas. The Last Transmissions of Amelia Earhart is our last piece on the program. It's by Robbie LaBanca, who's a member and the managing director of Inversion Ensemble in Austin. It's probably easiest to describe this piece as totally disorienting, and that's the point. It's a graphic score which utilizes traditional musical notation and graphic symbols which are only really partially explained in the score, and historical pictures and graphs and maps which aren't explained by the composer at all, and all of those things kind of make up the score, and you're going to see that as we perform this piece in a little bit. It's divided into movements of 1 page each. Symbols and notation are arranged in multiple orientations, and so that in order to see the music traditionally, you're either going to have to rotate the music as you sing it. Some of us are going to tilt our head a little bit or just read entirely upside down. The text is from the last transmissions received, confirmed and unconfirmed, from the doomed Amelia Earhart before her plane presumably crash-landed either into an island or into the sea. It begins with a very simple, "Can you read me?" And it continues to say that they have taken on water, that their navigator is badly hurt, and then it repeats a series of headings so that they can be found. As far as I know, as far as we know, they were never found. The text also includes rather dark passages of Amelia Earhart's poetry, including, quote, "Merciless life laughs in the burning sun, and only death, slow circling down, shadows." In its premiere, Inversion Ensemble stood around the edges of the room, disorienting the audience as they hear spoken text, sung text, vocal and physical effects, and wind noise from around the room. This piece uniquely lends itself to remote performance. Tonight, we can actually distort our voices as transmissions, garbled, by purposefully changing our network settings or using or misusing our microphones. We can pan our own voices, making them sound on different sides of the sonic field, and move them back and forth in real time, which is really not something we could do in live performance without looking too glib. Much of this piece is up to the performers in the moment, how many times to sing something or whether to sing it at all, how loud or soft or what kind of voice. Everything on the page is represented in real time. The piece also includes one of our members, Adrienne Inglis, who is also an Inversion Ensemble member, on regular flute this time, lending itself to the eerie wind which the transmissions are flung into. If you're not using headphones to listen to the live stream, we'd highly recommend it for this piece so you can get the effect of the cacophony around you. We present the last transmissions of Amelia Earhart. Is everybody ready?
This is.
Can you read it?
This is.
Can you read me? Can you read me?
Can you read me? This is.
This is Amelia Earhart.
Can you read me?
We've taken in water.
Can't hold on.
Must have help.
And must have help.
Our plane is out of gas.
On our new little island or point
Water.
There we start. By radio. We are flying 1,000 feet. 42 and we're flying at 1,000 feet.
Repeat this message on 6210 kiloseconds.
We repeat this message on 6210 kiloseconds.
Repeat this message.
We're on the line, 1571337. We repeat this message on 6210 kilocycles.
We are on the line 1573337.
We are on the line.
We are on the line. We are on the line
1571337.
We are on.
We repeat this.
We are on the line. We are on.
This is Amelia Earhart. This is Amelia Earhart.
This is Amelia Earhart. This is Amelia. This is Amelia.
Can you?
Can you read?
Can you read? This is.
Can you read?
Can you? Can you?
Sincerely yours, Amelia Earhart.
Yay!
Yay.
So Brian, you're saying something next? So in a moment, we're going to begin the talk back. But first, just want to remind you that we do have our virtual tip jar available. So the Venmo, PayPal, and credit card options are
That's
the
actual
Venmo,
applause.
credit card, and PayPal options are all in the description under the video. And Elise, would you also pop them in the chat again, please, for people? And Brian wants to say a few words about our new foray into Patreon.
Well, I think we're gonna hold off on that for the moment, but we might be announcing it soon once we decide how best to take music into the next dimension. So stay tuned for announcements about that. But yes, you can certainly leave tips, as Karen said. We have Venmo, we have PayPal.
Your jitter buffer settings may still be.
All right,
We've
so
all
while
changed
Brian-
our settings for Amelia, so.
Yeah, while Brian's fixing that, I just want to
Sorry,
remind you all that we also are giving 50% of the proceeds from your tips tonight to BYP 100, a community-based organization that fights anti-blackness in many cool ways. So please consider that when you are making donations.
Yeah, I'm sorry, you probably couldn't understand me before, but sorry about that. I was still in the ether. Stay tuned for our announcement of Patreon. Once we get it ready, it will be a new way for you to not only contribute to C4, but just as importantly, be a part of C4 and Inversion and the whole C4 network and participate with us as we create this new music and try and address the issues of the day, both musically and non-musically.
Close the den door.
So, with that, shall we move on to the talkback?
So Chris and Robbie, I invite you to turn your Zoom video on so we can all see you. And I remind everyone else to unmute their video.
Yay!
Welcome.
And we should unmute them if we had them muted before.
Right.
In general.
Yes. So who wants to go first among our composers? And would you like to tell us a little bit about what it was like to experience your pieces in this format? Okay, Chris, we did your piece before Robbie, so let's start with you.
Sure. Well, let me just say this was really cool. I just sat here and in my chair, I'm like, wow, that's so cool. And it's insightful because, like I said, I just graduated, and so as an educator, I kind of need new ways to make music for now. So this was really informal and just really beautiful. So thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
Nice.
Yeah.
I will say that I kept thinking, hearing my piece, like, oh yeah, I totally wrote it exactly to be performed like this across the country.
Yes.
You know, it's interesting. Like most of my music has been performed by Inversion, which is great because I'm always part of the process. But to like come along and have a piece that's been rehearsed without me present and like it takes on its own life, and for it to be like very much related to how it was performed by Inversion, but yet still purely original. It was cool, and all the effects and everything. It was just, I had my score pulled up on my big monitor behind my iPad watching it, and it was neat. I would hear noises and I would go, I wonder if what they're reading. Like I was trying to figure out what you were reading to make the noise, because the last time I was performing it, so I didn't get to really watch it as an audience member, so that was pretty awesome.
Fortunately, we got in before the fireworks started. Yeah,
from
the
outside my
neighbors
window.
at 7 have been replaced with fireworks at this point.
Yeah, everybody's setting off fireworks in the
That's
streets.
a little less friendly, but
That could be the sequel.
Yeah, exactly.
Wave at the neighbors at 7 and swear at the neighbors at 8.
Ooh, make that happen.
Oh man.
That's amazing.
Get on it, Jamie. So I'm scanning the chat for questions and not really finding them yet, although there is a 20-second delay because of spammers. So please go ahead and put those questions in. If you have questions for any of the 4 composers who are all present now, or for any of us in the ensemble.
Could have used that one.
I should have prepared some questions. But, well, I want to know from our composers what you're working on now during this this social distance, difficult for choral music time. If this is kind of a one-off thing that we're performing your music in this way, or if you have any other plans to work with online mediums at all.
I'm participating in Rhymes with Opera's summer workshop, which they revived after a few years off, and I did it before as a singer, now I'm doing it as a composer, but of course it's all online, so we're writing pieces for their company for this workshop, and we have to provide our own tracks, of course. They're all solos, so that's been pretty interesting. So I've been working with synth, like an Ableton. Ooh, I hear some typing. Oh man. So that's what I've been working on recently. Anyone else? Nada?
I mean, well, wearing the hats as managing director and composer for Inversion, our last concert of the year didn't happen, so that has now all been recorded individually, and we're compiling it for a digital release.
Oh wow.
Nice.
So I opted to write an instrumental piece for that concert because I didn't want to pour gas on the fire for all the choral pieces that we were trying to record. And I'm actually taking this time right now. I'm working on my first opera that is a setting of an Edgar Allan Poe story.
Cool.
And my husband, who's been locked up with me all this time, is who loves Edgar Allan Poe and loves horror, anything. He kind of gave me the idea, and he's actually writing the libretto. So we've been setting aside time a couple times a week. He's writing, we're going off, he writes, gives me stuff, and then I tell him to go away. And I go into my studio and write for a little bit and bring him and like play stuff for him. And it's been pretty fun. And yeah, it's hard. I mean, there's so much pressure, I think, right now to like be creative. Like, you have all this free time, and it's like, right, but it's free time during a global pandemic. Like, it's not exactly stress-free. So it's sometimes hard to be creative and have the energy to do that. But yeah, I've been trying to take advantage of it.
For anyone with kids, you don't have free time.
Yeah, full-time job,
Right.
no free time.
Chris, what are you working on now, if anything, during the pandemic?
Yeah, so I'm working with Jade currently to finish watercolors. So right now, just the first 2 pieces are composed, and the last one will be called Midnight. And so once I finish that, I will get them to Dr. Andre Thomas. He had came to Westminster maybe in February, and so he actually listened to watercolors and wants to publish. So I would like to finish that and get them to him soon. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Congratulations.
Wow,
Thank you.
that totally took the wind out of the sails of my question. That's fine. That's fine.
Oh, you wanted to publish him, right?
I was looking for your other stuff, Chris. Yeah, I was wondering where I could. I was actually scoping out your website the other day because I really liked this piece, and I couldn't find any more of your compositions.
Well,
but
you
that's
guys
fine.
will
Andre
be
and I will
talking-
we'll just wrestle over it.
You guys will be talking later.
Yes, please. We'll talk later.
We have questions from the chat. Oh, I just want to let you know, someone's wondering about why the lengthy comments are not going through. And oh, okay, Elissa's helping you. So Eugene is wondering for Robbie, what inspired you to compose the last transmissions of Amelia Earhart, and how did you decide on that format?
So.
Oh, and actually, I'm going to give two questions at once because
Sure.
they're both for you. And while you're talking about that, questions about the floor plan in the top right of the first or second graphic.
The floor plan. Okay, I'll have to open the score and look at it. As obviously I have the entire thing memorized and where everything is placed on the score. So when we were planning Inversions, what would have been the season that just ended, our entire season was called Ether, and there was one concert for each of the alchemical elements, so earth, air, fire, water. And the air concert was all about like innovation and wind and all those sorts of things. So I had already had an idea to write a piece about Amelia Earhart, and then I actually went to the NEO Music Festival in the summer of last year with Fahad and David Harris and some other C3LA and C4 people, and doing all the out-of-the-box music there made me go like, okay, I really need to try a graphic score. Like I had been kind of too scared to do it, and I just kind of brushed that aside. And on the flight back from LA to Austin, while I was sitting in the airport, I bought a biography of Amelia Earhart and read a lot of it on the plane going back. And the reason I find her so fascinating as a subject is that she's one of those people that as a human being, she gets lost. The myth of her overshadows the human person that was her. And so I wanted to like elicit a reaction in the performers by putting things on the page like photographs, so that while you're performing, you can't escape that she was a person. You're looking at photos of her, you're looking at maps, you're looking at diagrams of the planes, those kinds of things. So that's really what I wanted to accomplish with that. And then the text over the quintet that's happening is kind of a nod to the time. It's kind of like an Andrews Sisters, kind of like women's radio group sound, kind of overlaid.
If I had knew that. Yeah.
Kind of overlaid on on top of all of that. So yeah, that's what inspired the piece. I'll look at where did they say the thing was in the score? I'll look at it real quick.
There's a search
top
map at
right
the top.
of the first or second graphic.
The first page has a search
Oh, right.
areas.
So all of these, all of the kind of graphic images that are on here, not the photographs, but like the plain specs and her handprint, these are all things that are archived in the Library of Congress that have to do with her and the search. If you zoom in, these are just kind of search areas that they spent basically 2 years searching for her. She disappeared in 1937. She wasn't declared dead until January 1939. So that graphic is an official graphic from July of 1937, where they were trying to triangulate messages and figure out where her plane may have gone down.
I'm finding that graphic. Super
Yeah,
cool.
it's on the very first page in the top right-hand corner. And then, of course, on the third page is a picture of Howland Island, which is where most experts now think that she may have actually landed. That her plane, they believe that she actually did land on Howland Island, but the plane was never recovered.
I feel like I should perhaps share that first page with our audience. I will just do a screen share quickly.
Well, I can show it in the live stream if you want. Should I do that?
Oh, yeah, why don't you do that?
This
for me?
is number 1 or the introduction?
It's in the introduction.
Okay, it should be visible to them now.
Oh, the thing that's titled Earhart Search.
Yeah, it says track chart Earhart search, July 1937. So this is when they were searching for her, and they were trying to figure out So Josh mentioned also that the text on here is confirmed and unconfirmed transmission. So the "Can you read me" line is an actual recorded transmission. Most of the other transmissions are anecdotal. The people on like ham radios and things all over the world who claimed that they heard things from Amelia Earhart. So they're not confirmed, but they used all of those to basically pinpoint where they thought she might have crashed. So that's what that chart is. It's just them trying to figure out where she may have crashed or landed if they thought she survived.
There's a cool YouTube video that went around with examples from the real recording. I don't know.
I just, in case anyone's interested and wants to like go be a nerd like me and want to read it, the book that I would recommend is called East to Dawn by Susan Butler. And this is a full biography of her, and it goes way beyond just like lots of books out there just cover her life as an aviator and her disappearance, but this is a like full biography of her, and I'd highly recommend it if you're interested in her as a historical figure.
In 1937, what did they have to record on? They didn't have tape recording yet, I don't think.
Right. That video that's floating around YouTube, because I found that as well. Those are, as far as I can tell, just dramatic recreations. Yeah, they're not. It's not her actual voice.
Okay.
There are some cool interviews with her on YouTube if you want to hear her actual voice. She has that very transatlantic, affected accent, and she gives a whole lesson on a chalkboard about flying, about the trip she's going to take.
I want to read the note from Eric Summers in the chat. He says, for the Earhart piece, I suggest you binauralize the tracks so that they are more stunning on headphones, and email him for more information on that. I've never heard the word binauralized before. I love that.
I have not heard that either.
But yeah, this will be available later on to listen to it again with headphones if you didn't wear headphones during it. I'm wondering if the C4 and C4 network members want to talk a bit about what techniques you were doing to create those sounds. I know I was fooling around with the panning when I wasn't doing the quintet part. Who else wants to talk about also the fan? I don't know if you could actually hear the fan.
You heard what I was doing because I forgot to turn it off at the end. Jamulus is the audio software that we're using, and it has various settings to let you set your buffer size so that you can get a good mix of lowering the latency and having good sound quality. So what I did was I cranked it all the way in the direction of having terrible sound quality so that I could then have a more kind of crackly radio sound to what I was saying.
I think a lot of us were having
techniques.
A lot of us were having fun with wind sounds, like you know. And the pan I love, laying down with all of us going in like 10 different directions. It's a lot of fun.
I was playing with a effects processor, which is on my mixer. So let me see.
Oh, was that the vocoder thing?
Yep.
Was that
like
this?
Oh.
Yeah, I heard. Yeah,
I heard some weird high voices. I thought.
I heard some really weird low voices during part of it. It was very cool.
Okay.
Somebody actually using a plane sample or something like that?
A recording of a plane, which I can't play for you right now very conveniently, but yeah.
I heard that for the first time tonight, actually.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
You surprised us.
Downloaded it today.
So should we move
It's
on
hard to
to
tell like how effective things are without being able to like hear what's coming through the speakers ourselves. But I was trying some like multiphonic noise stuff, like that kind of stuff to that picks up really well in mics usually, but I have no idea how it'll work this time.
Should we move on to another question? I see there was some about like asking the composers how they're thinking about composing new music to be formed during this time. What, if anything, has changed the way you think about writing music? I don't know if our guest composers want to start talking about that.
Honestly, I haven't been brave enough to write anything with the purpose of it being recorded remotely yet. It's hard for me to wrap my brain around doing that. I think people from Inversion might be able to speak to the fact that I'm a pretty eclectic composer, and this Amelia Earhart piece it's not indicative of most things that I write. So a lot of things that I write are more traditional. I say that, but I have some other kind of strange pieces. But so yeah, it's been hard for me to kind of wrap my brain around, like sitting at the piano and thinking like, I'm gonna write this, pretty choral piece, and then like write like, how's that ever gonna get performed? That's why I've been writing other things that may or may not ever get performed, because I can like put myself in a state of denial and pretend like I'm gonna have an opera premiered next year or something.
Oh, jeez.
And Chris?
Chris, you already mentioned you're working on the rest of watercolors. Do you have any other thoughts about composing in this time?
Well, I have a lot of solo pieces that I wrote for classmates, but COVID kind of took those recitals out of the way. So just going to rework those. I don't really have any new projects, but I think it's just important that I just stay in deep thought with my sound, because it's a hard task to kind of make your own sound and stay in your own sound. So yeah, just anything I do, whether I practice piano or something, just to keep my brain thinking about how I can influence my sound a little bit.
Solo work is one thing that can continue with live streaming, so I don't know if you've thought about that, trying to get performances right now, those works from canceled recitals.
I hope they can be performed. I know once we got the email that class was kind of over, I guess it kind of went to the side, but I'm for it if it's going to be live streamed on Zoom.
Send them to solo artists. Yeah, try. I just listened to a live stream today of performance by two instrumentalists and one singer, and they did it even though they were in two different locations, and a lot of people watched. Make it happen.
So Elise tells us
personally,
we should...
what?
Go on.
Oh, I just want to say that I am actually composing a lot for this medium of live remote choir, in addition to the piece that you all heard on the first live stream. I have a mission consortium going on with a piece with a new text that I wrote. I've been doing a lot of poetry writing in this time, and also there's going to be a webinar that Daniel and Brian and I are talking at, along with Scott Hannaware of Santa Clara University. That's going to be August 11th, and we're going to be telling other choir directors about how to create this and how to do it, spreading the word. There's a lot of interest from choirs to try this out and find a way, especially as they're learning that they're not going to be able to get together with their choir in the fall.
For anybody who's interested, a former colleague of ours in C4, perhaps one of the founding members, Karen, was Philip Chia one of the founders, or just very shortly after the...
Yeah, he was one of the founding members.
Philip has made a project for himself of multi-tracking himself.
The Choir of Chias.
The Choir of Chias. If you haven't had a chance to see any of his videos yet,
incredible.
Go to his YouTube channel.
Yeah.
He's awesome. He
They are
sings
great.
everything from low bass to high soprano himself, and he can record any piece you want. I'm not sure he's not charging now that he's got people interested in doing it, but you should definitely see some of the videos if you haven't had a chance to yet, or if you have a piece you'd like to have performed anywhere up to 8 voices, he can do it for you.
So Elise tells me that we should probably wrap up pretty soon. I don't know. I see there's a move afoot to do a reprise. Was that actually something we were thinking we should do?
Could, if we do Dawn again, could we invite Chris to sing with us?
Yes! Amazing.
Do you have your score handy?
Not to put you on the spot.
I think I got it memorized.
Yeah, we thought maybe we should try doing that again. the non-dance remix version.
I have my score open right now, so I'll sing with you too if you want.
Yay!
Yeah. Awesome. All right.
All right.
Well, I gotta get set up for that again then.
Do we need to do a sound checks for our new singers?
I'll just move far away, and so I'm not offensive.
Don't worry about being offensive.
No.
Where did you go?
So we're gonna try the click track and make sure.
We're just adding beats to the fermatas.
Right. All right, so we hear that. And now in 30 seconds we'll know if the audience is.
Let us know if you heard that.
Assuming not, let's sing
Subtle as a jet engine.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, so Robbie, in measure 3, we're holding that fermata and putting some extra beats on it. You'll see.
Okay.
So are we ready then to go?
Almost.
Almost. All right. Well, maybe we're still waiting for confirmation. They did not hear the click just now.
I have confirmation from close friends.
Excellent. All right.
Awesome.
Okay, now I'm ready.
So is it a go, folks?
Yes.
Yes? Okay, so.
Yay. Yay.
It's a much more pleasant note to end on than the Earhart. As much as we love both pieces.
Well, thanks everybody for joining us.
Thanks everyone.
Keep an eye out for our next one, which should happen in, I don't know, 6 weeks or so, once we figure all the details out. And this should be available on YouTube, I think, to come back and listen to again and again, and share with your grandchildren.
Tell your friends and family.
Okay, here we go.
Good night,
Yay,
everyone.
thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining.
Bye.